Hey gang, Dennis Tubbergen here with another economic update. Today is Tuesday, April the 10th, 2018. I have an article up in front of me that was published actually on Saturday, quoting Peter Schiff, whom I've interviewed several times on my radio program. The headline of the article is "Coming Financial Crisis Will Be Much Worse Than the Great Depression." And I'll give you just a bit from the article. Schiff is quoted in the article as saying, "The bad news is we're going to live through another Great Depression, and it's going to be very different. This will be in many ways much worse than what people had to endure during the Great Depression. This is going to be a dollar crisis." According to Schiff, the U.S. Federal Reserve, which is incidentally the U.S.'s central bank, the central bank is a private group of bankers. This is not a government entity, as many people like to believe or think. The Federal Reserve is a private group of bankers, and all the way back in 1913, Congress and then President Woodrow Wilson saw fit to give control of U.S. monetary policy to a private group of bankers. So Schiff says the Federal Reserve is propping up the markets to urge people to spend more, but in fact the wealth created is a bubble. Here's a quote from Schiff. "It's actually doing damage. If you create a bunch of phony wealth and people end up spending money that they otherwise would have saved, you're undermining economic growth." In January, Schiff predicted the economy is going to blow up like a bomb because of Federal Reserve policy, but President Donald Trump will be to blame. Unfortunately, that's what Trump has inherited from Obama, but it's not even really just Obama, it's the Federal Reserve. It's the monetary policy that's been passed like a baton from Clinton to Bush to Obama and now to Trump, and we're nearing the end of the game. Unfortunately, in Schiff's opinion, Trump is going to be the fall guy. This thing is all going to collapse while he's president. Now, I tend to agree with Schiff. Certainly when you take a look at global debt, and in a prior economic update I shared this with you, if you look at total worldwide debt, and this article actually was published in the Independent, as you can see here. Global debt, why has it hit an all-time high and how worried should we be about it? If you take a look here at total debt, total global debt in the article is currently $233 trillion in the third quarter of 2017. That's according to the Institute of International Finance. Get this, it increased $16 trillion in the first 9 months of 2017. That's almost the entire economic production of the United States in a year. $233 trillion is significant. And when you take a look at total debt, you see 97, 2007, and 2017. Arguably, 2007, the financial crisis we saw, was a result of too much debt. More debt than can possibly be paid. When you go back to 1929, same issue. Too much debt, more debt than can possibly be paid. A symptom of more debt that can be paid are banking failures. It happened in the early 30s, it happened in 2007, and I believe we're going to see it again simply because banks have debt as assets. And when banks make loans and make too many loans and make loans to the point that there's too much debt out there for debt to possibly be paid, we have banking failures. And when there's banking failures, banks lose your money, depositors' money, not their money, because banks have depositors' money as assets. Just a quick look at this, and you can see that debt levels are up significantly from 2017. So if you go back and think about what Mr. Schiff says, that we're going to live through another Great Depression, certainly when you take a look at debt levels today, they are higher than they were in 1929. If the government had not come in and bailed out the banks, if the Federal Reserve had not printed nearly $5 trillion out of thin air, we would have experienced this phenomenon that Mr. Schiff is talking about already. However, what's happened? They've simply kicked the can down the road. Debt levels have gone up significantly, and now we're going to have to deal with the debt. So what should you be doing? One, you should make sure that if you have money in a bank that you've checked out the safety ratings of that bank. Secondly, if you have stocks or real estate, I would encourage you to strongly consider hedging those positions. I think we're going to see a real estate market collapse similar to what we saw 10 years ago. And I think we're certainly going to see stocks correct. In fact, it's my opinion at this point that we saw the highs in the market on January 26. That's today's economic update.